Welcome to a brand new edition of First and 10 Summer Series here on KLFY Plus. I'm News 10 Sports anchor Jonathan Bulott. That's News 10 Sports anchor Karaski Melvin. That's News 10 Sports reporter Andrew DeBella. Guys, we got another good edition on this week's show. We're talking to the LCA Knights and what a year they had in 2025, going 11-2. Their season falling short in the semifinals against a really good Dunham team on a 2-point conversion. And this team, you know, they were fireworks all year, just to say the least.
Let's start from the end, and with that game, there were fireworks with that. It was the offense was going there, and honestly, unfortunately, you hate to lose on a 2-point conversion, but done it with that way that it happened. It was dynamic, and they really hung there. It was incredible how it was indicative of the offense that LCA has put up throughout the season. It's been something that they were known for sure.
Yeah, and in that game, let's just not forget to point out that Elijah Haven on the other side had an outstanding game for Dunham, and that kid's going to go on to play a lot of Saturdays at Alabama in the near future. Andrew, what were your thoughts on the season that the Knights were able to put together?
I mean, it's just like Karaski was saying. Look at their scoring throughout the season. Their lowest scoring game, albeit by forfeit too, but other than that, you got 27. I think you got a 24 on here somewhere. Yeah, you got 24 against a good Evangel Academy.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, there's plenty of games. You're looking at plus 40, every season. So they were producing, and the seniors on that offense were clicking, and a lot of those seniors are, just as you said, they're going to go on and keep playing Saturdays. We might see them Sundays.
Yeah, some of the departing seniors from last year's team include linebacker Luke Green. He's off to play with the Cajuns this season. Also at the Cajuns, former quarterback Braylon Walker. He was an absolute showstopper last year, passed for over 2,000 yards, 29 passing touchdowns, 8 interceptions, but he also rushed for over 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns. He was just getting it done both in the ground, on the ground, and through the air. It was just an area that you didn't really have to worry about when it came to LCA is their offensive output.
And definitely dynamic through the air, especially with that wide receiver core that have all of those weapons. Of course, we can't, forget about the ground game and Aiden Bellard, 1,532 rushing yards, 21 TDs, and then a couple of TDs through the air as well. They had it on both. They were able to get it both ways there.
Absolutely. The offense, they did rely a lot on that senior class outside of Bellard. Let's go large part to the wide receiver tandem of Braden Allen, Draylon August, and Jace Babineau. They totaled over 3,000 yards. Braden Allen committed and signed to LSU, so he is joining Lane Kiffin for the first season that he will spend in Baton Rouge, and he had a stellar senior season as well with 11 touchdowns and over 800 receiving yards. When it comes to today's conversation, guys, what are y'all most excited to get into with the Knights?
I think with the Knights, the fact that a lot of that firepower has departed. How do you adjust? How do you adapt? Who are going to be the guys that are going to step up? Who are the guys that Coach Staniver is going to see are going to need to lean on to kind of keep things going and continuing that standard for LCA?
What about you, Andrew?
I mean, I'm just thinking about the defense. Last year, we haven't said much about the defense yet. We reminisce not to. 13 interceptions in 2025, 23.75 points per game through 12 games. 1 via forfeit, but I mean that's a good defensive squad to be able to put up with what your offense is doing. They're scoring numbers. You're not keeping every game insanely close, and to kind of watch them run it back. I mean, you got Draylon August leaving. He produced 4 interceptions by himself.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do to make sure to keep it going?
Well, you got a good defensive leader that is going to be actually joining us here today. On set, it is senior linebacker Caleb Simon, who had over 100 tackles last season, 2 interceptions and a sack. He was a 2025 LWSA Class 2A All-State honorable mention, and he also has an offer to Millsaps College right now. It seems like Coach Chop is very excited of what he can do leading not just the linebacking core, but the defense all around.
Another thing we should mention, and this has kind of been a theme through the series, guys, is the fact that we're having another district change
Yes.
for Lafayette Christian Academy. They were 6-2A in 2025. In 2026, it's 8-2A with the likes of Catholic New Iberia, Lauraville, West St. Mary, and Franklin, in contrast to last season when they had district opponents Notre Dame, Lafayette Renaissance Charter, and Welsh, to name a few.
When it comes to the comparison between the two districts, how do you think it really shapes out for LCA? Because regardless, when you look at their success, they were winning that district a good bit year in and year out. And last year they went undefeated in order to take the district crown. Now going into a new district with a former state champion in CNI, you also got Lauraville, who's elevating their play. Do you really like this move for the Knights and what they would be able to do in this district?
I like it. I think it's a good move. I mean, going against LRCA and Notre Dame, those are two squads that year in and year out, you can always expect some high production. So to go in, yes, you do have Catholic NI, you do have Lauraville, which is elevating, but I think all things considered for them, I wouldn't be mad about it.
I think one of the things is it's always an interesting opportunity to get into a new district with new opponents like that on your district calendar. And we're talking about the rising of Lauraville. They have been known to surprise and take an upset from a team. And of course, we talked about it wasn't too long ago before Catholic CNI pulled down a state championship. So I think that will be that will definitely be an interesting division. Also, West St. Mary did kind of had a decent season in their own right. So we'll not look too past the Wolfpack, I believe, on that one.
Absolutely. Before we go ahead and head to break, let's go ahead and look at their schedule right quick. They're opening the season taking on the Karen Crow Golden Bears at home before a trip to Alexandria. They'll also have a home matchup against Turlings Catholic, and they had a stellar season last year. They'll go on the road at Opelousas, and then all these district matchups, including their season finale on the road at Catholic New Iberia.
We had spoken with Karen Crow in a previous episode. We see how they've been preparing, so that I think that's going to be an interesting matchup. Turlings, of course, within the city, I think that's a big one. Lauraville coming into LCA, I think might be one you want to circle the calendar on. That I think that can be an interesting and a tricky spot perhaps for the Knights, Andrew.
Yeah, definitely that Karen Crow game. That's going to be a tell-all for both teams, no matter where it starts. Start the season good. Weirdly, one I'm interested to see is the Opelousas game.
Yes.
I'm interested to see how that one's going to end up going.
Well, we'll have a lot more on those games and much more on the LCA Knights after the break when head coach Matt Standiford joins the show. Stay with us. We'll be right back on KLO5 Plus. Welcome back to First and 10 Summer Series here on KLO5 Plus. We are now joined by the head coach of the LCA Knights, head coach Matt Standiford. First off, Coach, we want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your summer and joining us.
Yes, sir. No, it's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. You're entering year 7 with the program. Kind of just talk about what it's been like these past couple of years with the Knights.
Yeah, it's been a great journey so far. My first year was COVID year. And so all the craziness that came with that, won a state championship that year, which was super cool, especially because as a player and a coach, I'd never been past the quarterfinals. So that was a really, really cool experience. And I think a lot of that kind of helped transition into where we are now. It's crazy because some of the kids that are now juniors and seniors are like ball boys on that team. And so now seeing them in high school playing is really, really cool. But no, we're excited for this year. It's been a journey the last couple of years, but we're in a really good spot right now thanks to a lot of our senior leadership. The rest of the coaches on staff have done a really good job.
Outstanding. Go ahead, Ski.
You talked about some of that senior leadership you had. You have a number of departing seniors. Talk about some of your younger players and who you're looking to kind of step up and kind of fill those leadership roles.
Yeah, so the tough thing, we lost 13 seniors. We lost 9 of them that are going to be playing collegiate sports, and the other 4 were really, really good players for us, so it's a huge void. But we got some young talent. We got 2 guys battling out for the quarterback spot, Ty Hills and Kaiser White. Both are going to be juniors. We got an up-and-coming tight end, Wyatt Whitney, who I think is going to be a very good piece for us, a vocal point of our offense. Obviously, you got Bellard at running back, got some other receivers, and one of them that's really stood out so far is Breland Briscoe, kid that can play some receiver and tight end. And then you flip to the defensive side, and we got a lot of guys coming back. Caleb, who we'll talk to in a little bit, has been the anchor for us, but we got a lot of guys coming back. Sky Ryan's now healthy. And a linebacker that's really kind of transitioned into a dude to look for is Tristan Alexander. He's a 6'3", 190-pound sophomore that can flat out run, do a lot of different things. So excited about some of these up-and-coming guys.
Outstanding. Go ahead, Andrew.
So with changes of players and kind of come changing game plans, what is a big change that you guys are looking for and emphasis that you guys are looking for as well going into the offseason and in the next season?
Yeah, so the big thing is being able to line up in a bunch of different formations with a bunch of different personnel. You know, it's something that we've kind of prided ourselves on in the last couple of years. And last year we kind of introduced tight end to our offense for the first time in a long time. And we got two dudes that can really do it well, and they're versatile. They can both line up at receiver and do some things. But offensively, that's going to be kind of our mantra this year. We may not be playing as fast. We're going to be physical at the point of attack, be able to run the ball, and be able to take advantage of some deep balls.
Let's talk about last season. Y'all had a really, really good regular season, only falling to Archbishop Shaw early on in the season on the road. And then you go all the way to the semifinal round of the playoffs, and you fall on a 2-point conversion to a really good Dunham school. So what did you kind of just make of last year and then the ending at Knight Field?
Yeah, so I'm not going to lie. It kind of sucked losing that last one the way we did, knowing we were so close, had such a good year. And it's funny because me and Kale were actually talking about it in the green room, you know, like what was some of the best moments from last year. And it started all the way back in week 1, you know, a 1-point victory over a 5A powerhouse. And that kind of transcended into the rest of the year. And it's funny because I told the kids this the other day, the difference between this past year and the years before where we came out on top on those close games, those one-possession games. We won we won 5 out of the 6. And the one we lost was Dunham. And so just being able to finish in the big moments when it matters. But last year was a huge, huge building block for us, especially coming off the previous year. And it's something that kind of propelled us into the offseason.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Ski.
You guys are going into a new district. What opportunities do you see there with a new set of district opponents coming into the season?
Yeah, you know, I like it. I like switching it up a little bit, playing different teams. And from the start, you know, Catholic New Iberia is a powerhouse. We got a chance to play them last year in the quarterfinals, ended up coming out on top, but it was a really good game. Both super well-coached teams. Coach does a great job over there with his staff. And then you go to Laurelville, who ended up knocking off Catholic. And Laurelville's up and coming back to where they used to be when I was in school. And I know they got the Jones kid on the defensive line. They got a couple other animals. And Coach Terry does a great job with his group. And then you got West St. Mary, who always has a bunch of good athletes. Franklin, the same boat. So you don't want to get snake bitten by them. And then Delcom, who is some tough-nosed kids. You know, I played in college with a couple of kids from Delcom, and they might be the toughest dudes out there. So always love the new opportunities and new challenges, but we're looking forward to it.
Go ahead, Drew.
So when you're looking at the roster, looking at everything you guys are doing, what gives you the most confidence heading into next season that you won't make that same kind of misstep against Dunham if that situation arises?
Yeah, so we're in a unique spot, you know, as an offensive lineman by trade. This is probably the most veteran group we've ever brought back. We're bringing back 4 guys with starter-type experience, and we try to do that intentionally. You know, every year we try to rotate either a guard or a tackle on each side so that both of them are ready to start the following year. And then we're bringing back a really good running back. And anytime you can run the ball, y'all see that at every level. You know, and teams that run the ball and play good defense win championships. And it's funny because even the teams that like to throw the ball throughout the year, when it gets time in the state championship, they're running the ball. And then our defense, you know, we're bringing back 13 guys that have starter-type experience, led by 3 all-state guys, you know, 2 defensive linemen and an inside linebacker. That's the heart of our team, and really, really excited about that.
Let's talk a little bit about your running back, Cade Bellard. He went for over 1,500 yards last year and 21 touchdowns. Now he's getting a bunch of offers from a lot of Power 4 programs, and we'll likely see him playing on Saturdays in the near future. How excited are you to see what he can do in this next season, along with the fact that you have all this returning experience on the offensive line?
Yeah, you know, I think it's I think last year was his coming out party, but I still don't think we've seen the best version of him. You know, he's still young. He's still got a long ways to go. But the thing I like about him is he works. And just seeing how far he came from his freshman year to sophomore year, I know that he's going to have a really, really good junior year. And the thing about him is his versatility. So when we go empty personnel, he doesn't come off the field. And we could do a bunch of different things with him. He loves to block in the quarterback run game. And he's willing to do anything and everything it takes for us to be successful.
Go ahead, Ski.
Let's go back to the defense. You mentioned Sky Ryan earlier and the fact that he is coming back after that injury. Can you tell us about how important it is to have him on that defense and what he brings to that defense?
It's huge. You know, he is the only kid that has state championship experience. You know, as a freshman, he started for us in the Dome against STM. And they had some really, really good players that year, and he's guarded the best ever since he stepped foot on our campus. And so having not only the physical side of it, but the mental side of he's been through it, he's a good leader, he's vocal in the back end, and he can play all 5 spots. So having that versatility really, really helps.
Andrew.
So I just want to double back a little bit to some of the kids you guys have that are leaving, that are going on to play Saturdays, like Luke Green, Braylon Walker, Braden Allen, Traylon August. You know, of course, a player's talent takes him a long way, but it's also credit to the coaching to be able to go on. So what do you think you guys do as a coaching staff that's really helping these kids elevate their game?
Man, our assistant coaches are phenomenal. And the thing that helps is a lot of them have college experience, you know. I look at our offensive line coach. We got 2 offensive linemen that are going to college. Will Chance played at UL. Ironically, Tyrell Fenroy was the running back at that time. And then you look at our defensive side, Coach Drew Bergeron has been around a lot of talent. He's worked with a lot of talented dudes. And he's really helped propel our secondary. You know, Mitch Kraft was our defense coordinator. It's our linebacker coach. And that dude is phenomenal. You know, just the not only the knowledge of the game, but being able to teach it and bring it into a way where our kids understand it. And him playing at Southern Miss, you know, he had a high level of football IQ. And I think that's really helped not only with our guys on the physical side of it, but the mental side, understanding where to be, how to be, what to do, and just different things like that.
Coach, 2 more questions for you before we go ahead and head to break. Let's talk about your 2026 schedule and what y'all were able to put together. Starting off the year, taking on Karen Crow at Knight Field, then you got some really good tests against some quality teams like Alexandria and Turlings and Opelousas. You're going to end the season on the road at Catholic New Iberia. What do you like about the schedule and what y'all were able to put together?
Man, I'm excited about week 1. You know, Battle University. Coach Gavin is a friend of mine. You know, we've gone at it the last couple of years. He does a really good job with his team, and really excited about that matchup. And then week 2 is special for me as a Westminster alum, and so I'm pumped that they got us on the schedule, and I get to go back home for a game. And then obviously Ash, you know, Coach Bachman's one of the best in the state, and they find a way to get dudes ready to roll. And anytime you're able to play in the championship and Division I select, you know, you got a good squad. And then finishing up with Turlings and Opelousas. You know, Mikey's done a great job at Turlings getting those boys ramped up and ready to go. I mean, 10-0 is impressive. And then Opelousas and then the district schedule. So there's not too many cupcakes on that schedule, and that's how we like it, be able to make sure we're prepared going into the playoffs.
Finally, before we head to break, talk about the young man that you brought here with you today, senior linebacker Caleb Simon. What has he meant to the program both on and off the field?
Shoot, we don't have enough time for that. But and Caleb's phenomenal. He'll be wearing number 3 this year, which is our defensive captain number. But even as a freshman, so the kid broke his collarbone, shoulder, had to have surgery, like the bone was sticking out. And all he did was show up every single day and work. He filled up water bottles. He did anything and everything we asked. And then came back as a sophomore and a junior and just happened to have 100 tackle seasons, back-to-back All-State. Probably if we didn't have those other 2 seniors last year, could have been the district MVP. But really excited about what he brings to us on the field, but more so off the field. I mean, he's teaching the younger kids. He's bringing them under his wing and really just does a phenomenal job. And so we're going to savor these next 14, 15 games with him.
Outstanding. We can't wait to hear from him. Acadiana, stay with us because after the break here on KLFY Plus, we're going to hear from senior linebacker Caleb Simon here on First and 10 Summer Series. Welcome back to First and 10 Summer Series here on KLFY Plus. We are now joined by Lafayette Christian Academy senior linebacker Caleb Simon. And this man had a hell of a season in 2025. 107 tackles, 2 interceptions, a sack, and he was a Class 2A All-State honorable mention by the Louisiana Sports Writers Association, I believe. Caleb, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Sir.
So let's just talk a little bit about the off-season heading into your senior year. Kind of what has the preparation been like for you and the team, and what are the emotions like heading into your last season of high school football?
Well, this off-season, we just been working, trying to get better. We still got that kind of taste in our mouth from losing to Dunham,
Yeah.
Really, for me, that's just motivation to go and strive for better things, just to try to get to that state championship again. We haven't been able to do it in these last couple years, but that's a goal. For my senior year, I want to go out with a bang.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Ski.
You talked about that biting, stinging loss to Dunham. What did you guys learn from that you're going to try to take into this upcoming season?
Oh, really? Just not taking none off the gas, you know, because I know I had a couple plays that I really could have made a bigger impact on, or not run a play to the full potential because I was just tired, you know. But that's why we training this offseason, really going hard. So when we get in that fourth quarter, those tough situations, we don't let off the gas and we just keep going hard.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Let's move to a more positive light. He said your stats earlier. I mean, you were lighting up the stat sheet. You're everywhere on the field. Your coach has great things to say. What is allowing you to be that successful on the field? What kind of work you're putting in? What's the mindset?
Really, it's just the coaches, you know. Really, the coaches and the teammates. My coaches, they this puts me like to strive for better things, you know. They always saying good things, but they know when they get on you. Because when a coach get on you, you know, if a coach not getting on you, that means he don't really like mess with you. I don't say he don't mess with you, but when he get on you, that's how you know he really want you to do better. And like my teammates, I have great teammates, you know. They always push me to do better things. They always say positive things, you know, and they just do their job very well.
So before the break, Coach Chop, he mentioned to us that you will be wearing number 3 this season, which is the defensive captain number for LCA. Just, you've been playing the game since you were 4. You've been with the school for pretty much your entire high school career, correct? So seeing all the previous players that have worn that number 3 and what it's like for you now being able to put it on yourself, what's kind of the emotions of that?
It means a lot, you know. My freshman year, I probably noticed, but I had a cousin, Tyler, he wore number 3. So I looked up to him all through my years, and finally get to wear that number, it means a lot to me, you know. It's a lot of weight on your back, but I'm ready for it.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Ski.
So as you don that number, what are some of the things that you're working on yourself? We talked about team goals, about like as a whole, but as yourself, what are you working on to kind of improve and to kind of take that next step?
Mm-hmm. I got you. So wearing number 3, like you're the captain of the team, you know. So really, I'm just trying to be the best captain I can. I'm trying to bring up the younger guys, you know, so one day they could be in my spot, you know. And just trying to really bring everything that I can to the table for this team to make them better.
Go ahead, Drew.
So speaking of them younger guys, as you said, your cousin, he was wearing 3. You were looking up to him. When you see someone on the defense now looking up to you, what kind of words are you giving them, trying to help them be better? You know, maybe take them under your wing, say, hey, you can make it here one day. Just what kind of advice would you have for those kids?
You know, really, I'm sharing the mistakes that I made, you know, so they don't have to make the same mistakes I made. So whatever mistakes I made, I'll be trying to tell them what they can do and how they could be better, you know, because I know I did some things that I wish somebody would have told me like not to do, or some things that I wish like they could have told me to do as I was coming up from my freshman to like my senior year. So basically, all the mistakes that I made, I'm just telling them the right things to do.
You're in a pretty unique situation. You're the anchor of a defense of a team that is in search for their next gunslinger, their next signal caller at quarterback. Kind of talk about the 2 guys that have been competing for the starting job, and overall, what has been your assessment of how both of them have been able to, you know, work off one another and, you know, not just try and get the job for themselves, but also work as a collective to, you know, make the team better?
Okay, so every day at practice, you know, they're going at it. You know, one person get one job, and the next person, next job, another person get the other job, you know. And say one person, they might not do well, the other one comes up and be like, oh, no, like, you good, you know, I got you, I'm going to pick you up this job. And turns out he throws a touchdown, but instead of the other one getting, like, in his feelings, he actually congratulating him for doing well, you know. And Ty actually played with him with the Swamp Cats. It's my travel football team I played when I was younger. So I know I got a pretty good relationship with Ty, and Kaza too. I've been playing with for a while for football and baseball. So
when it comes to that like supportive mentality and mindset that y'all have with one another on the practice field, do you feel like that's an inspiration that comes from the coaches and the remainder of the coaching staff?
Mm-hmm, for sure. You know, in the weight room too, this competition, we try to compete in everything we do. Compete in the classroom, every little thing we do. So it comes from the coach, yes, sir. Also the players too.
Go ahead, Ski. Quick question.
You talked about playing baseball. What are some of the things you learned from baseball that you use on the football field?
Oh, just a lot of grit, you know. Them baseball workouts be getting tough. Sometimes we doing duck walks for almost the whole practice. So really it's teaching not to give up and just keep going and how to persevere.
Finally, for you, let's just go ahead and talk about this season. You're all going into a new district. You got a lot of high-profile matchups on the schedule for your senior season. What's kind of it going to be like strapping up one final time for this program?
And, you know, I'm trying to go over the bang. You already know that. So we got some pretty solid teams, but I know my team will be ready for it, ready for anybody.
That's what I'm talking about. Don't come across the middle because Caleb Simon is ready to lay the boom for the LCA Knights this season. Caleb, thank you so much for joining us today on Summer Series.
Appreciate y'all.
Absolutely. And we will see you next Friday right here on Caleb Fly Plus.